everyone, it's Tuesday with DNB Academy, and welcome to another bass recreation video. In this video, we're going to be recreating Kanine's Get Down bass, and this is a very iconic bass in the scene right now. There's a lot of people putting this 16th note bass to good use, so I want to go ahead and teach you guys how to make it. So without further ado, let's get into the program. So before we get started, let me go ahead and show you what the original track sounds like. And this is what my recreation sounds like. So let's dive into the bass now. The bass consists of two layers, one sub-layer and one mid-layer. This 1/16th note bass is super key to creating this subgenre. Alright, and this is the bass patch. As you can see, I have LFO1 doing the majority of the movement in this patch. So this is modifying the volume of oscillator A and B, the volume of the noise level, the filter cutoff, the reverb wet, the drive, and the filter frequency cutoff. So as you can see, they're just two saw waves. One is being detuned, and the other one has an octave up and 7 semitones, and the fine tune set to 19. And all I'm doing here is making sure that I'm writing 1/16 notes on the piano roll, and then I'm making sure that the bass is being triggered by the same notes. So let's go ahead and initialize the patch, and I'll show you guys how I made this. Alright, so now that you got that blank serum, the first thing that you want to do is actually drag LFO1 to make this kind of ramp shape like this. So make sure to leave a little gap here at the beginning to make sure that the notes don't click as much when you're pressing them. You also want to modify the attack here, so 56 milliseconds is okay. And we're going to set LFO1 to envelope mode. The next thing that I want to do is bring the levels down of oscillator A and B and place LFO1 on the levels so that it modulates that amplitude. So oscillator A to around 75, and then oscillator B, you can tweak it to around 60. So essentially LFO1 right now is just modulating the amplitude of oscillator A and B and giving it the shape that we've drawn in. Next thing I want to do is add some unison to oscillator B. And we're going to increase it in octave and 7 semitones. Next thing you want to do is turn on the filter and make sure that you apply LFO1 to the filter cutoff and that this filter is affecting oscillator A and B along with the noise. And you want to drag down that LFO to around 160 Hertz. Add a little bit of drive and a little bit of resonance. So this is what it sounds like right now. So as you can tell, we're already getting closer. The next thing that you want to do is turn on the noise and set it to ARP circuit and place LFO1 to the level of that noise. You then want to make sure to go into the matrix and make sure it's unipolar. Now once you've set the LFO1 to the level of the noise, you want to turn on the sub and also place the LFO1 to the sub level so that it is modulating that volume of the sub. In the same way of oscillator A, B, the noise, and the filter cutoff. So just lower the sub in octave, so we're going to just put -1 here. And then we will change later if that's needed. So let's bring the fine tune down to -19 on both of the oscillators, and let's go on to the effects tab. So we're going to want hyperdimension, distortion, compression, EQ, and some reverb, along with some filtering before the compressor. So let's bring down the mix of the hyperdimension to around 3%. And let's place LFO1 onto the drive of the distortion. You then want to place LFO1 to the cutoff of the filter in the effects tab, and then you want to dial it down to around 240 Hz. We're then going to turn on multiband and turn up the gain to around 12 dB. We also want to bring this high band down, and we'll have to play with the release on later just to fine tune it. We're then going to make a shelf with the EQ so that it has more high end. So we'll just add some more gain on this EQ, and we can set the frequency to around 900 Hz. We then want to set the LFO to the mix of the reverb and make the settings quite short, so it's in a small room. And make sure to modify the low cut so that we don't have any reverb on any low frequencies. All that's left is kind of like fine-tuning it and tweaking the parameters to match it with the original sound. But if you just modify the curve of the LFO, you'll be able to nail kind of the length of that plug that is sitting on top of the sub bass. So let's also increase the release of the multiband compressor here. So around 160 milliseconds is alright. You can also play around with the curve of the LFO to get it perfectly matched with the original tune. So that would be it for the main patch. Making the sub-low layer is much easier. It's just duplicating the same patch, turning all the effects off, turning the oscillators off, and making sure the only thing that is turned on is the sub oscillator, and we just give it the same movement with the LFO, and that's going to be turned into our sub-low layer. So let's listen back here and see how close we got. So as you can hear, we can actually make the decay a bit shorter on the LFO. So let's just modify this real quick. We can also lower the volume a little bit. And since we're going to layer it, I want to make sure to put a filter on it so that it filters out any of that low frequency, since we're going to have a separate sub layer that's going to be following the same movement. So I have it around 250 Hertz. That usually works for me, and then I usually add a chorus. So chorus classic will work, and just bring the dry wet down to around 15 or less. We're then going to increase the resonance of the filter and make sure that we add a clipper at the end. Now in order to make that sub layer, I just duplicated the mid layer, removed all the post-processing and the oscillators. So I just want a clean sine wave for my sub here that's just following the same movement as the LFO on the mid bass. So this is what that sounds like. So we have to increase the curve here of the decay. Let's go ahead and increase the octave so it perfectly matches. And there you go, that's our sub. We're just going to increase the volume here. And I'm going to copy over the 1/16 notes. So it's exactly the same pattern, except one of them has a space between the notes here, so that's the mid layer, and sub kind of keeps playing those 1/16 notes under it. Now we're forgetting something very important on the main patch, so we just forgot to turn on the mono, legato, and increase the portamento. So this just makes it so that it's gliding in between the notes, and it makes the bass sound much smoother. So now that we've got these grouped, let's go ahead and add some wave stripper on it to lightly saturate it and drive the sound. Now let's listen back and hear our bass recreation. Cool, so it sounds pretty spot on. The only thing that I would recommend is playing around with some reverb just to give it a little bit of space, and then you're good to go. You can tweak this and make it your own. Again, my name is Yutuza with DNB Academy, and if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified for our next updates. Go ahead and check out our website at dnbacademy.net for the best mentorships in the game right now. If you're ready to skyrocket your career to the next level, then I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.